The final story of the day is about Harvard and Yale scientists who have discussed dimming the sun to stop global warming. And I'm going to explain this on multiple levels. They published it in the Journal of Environmental Research Letters. They think that spraying large amounts of sulfate particles in Earth's lower stratosphere at altitudes as high as 12 miles with naval-style guns that haven't been invented yet for that height, or high-altitude balloons, that will stop global warming, and it will be able to dim the sun. These are the geniuses at Harvard and Yale. Harvard also, who had like a self-segregated, they had a self-segregated award show recently where it was all African-American students, because nothing says woke liberalism like segregating yourselves. That's super liberal, but they've and they gave some weirdo award. Never mind. I don't even want to talk about how bad Harvard's got, but I have multiple issues with this article, or at least this study. First off, I do want to say that a lot of other scientists have actually, like, in the article it said a lot of other scientists don't agree. Like normal scientists who haven't been brainwashed by cultural Marxism, sounds like they don't agree. So it's not like the whole science community is behind this. It's like a few weirdos at Harvard or Yale watched too many far-left Rachel Maddow videos, and now they want to dim the sun. They're like, oh, wouldn't it be great if we just dim the sun? And you're like, dude, you go to Harvard or Yale. What a waste of time and money to go to one of the most prestigious schools and literally get brainwashed out of intelligence. But Harvard and Yale scientists discuss dimming the sun, answer to global warming. The first obvious problem with this article is the fact that they've used a debunked conspiracy theory title that has literally even been weeded out of the science community. The science community doesn't even use the term global warming anymore. Al Gore doesn't even use the term global warming anymore. Liberals and progressives and environmentalists don't use the term global warming. So you're using a debunked conspiracy theory about that the entire globe is warming. It's not a good name. It never was a good name because the whole Earth is literally not warming. If the climates are changing, they changed it to climate change. And even the top documentaries, I watched the Leonardo DiCaprio documentary, it's not warming. It gets warmer in some places. It gets colder in some places. That sounds familiar, kind of like the seasons, you know, like spring and summer are warm, and then it gets cold in autumn and winter. Like, that's how the world works. It heats and it cools, and it heats and it cools, and sometimes a volcano explodes and gets really hot, and carbon and sulfur, all that stuff gets into the air, and, you know, like, that's kind of how the Earth works. So they changed it to climate change because they realized they were completely wrong. The whole world isn't heating up. It's actually changing climates, that's like saying blue ocean. I have a new theory. It's the blue ocean theory. Well, what does that mean? It means, well, the ocean's blue and it's getting bluer, and it might get less blue, might get more blue, but it's blue for sure. It's changing colors, color changing. Climate change. It's really like it's definitely better than global warming, because that was, I don't know why CNN used it. No scientists use it anymore. Climate change is better, but it's kind of redundant. Like climate change. Well, it means the climate's changing. I get it. But anyway. First off, on this note, and we'll talk about the authenticity of climate change in a second, probably makes some people happy, some people sad. I don't really care. Spraying large amounts of sulfate particle in Earth's lower stratosphere. So that's what they said they were going to do. This breathes a lot of life into the chemtrails theory, where people believe that there's airplanes flying and shooting out things like sulfate particles, things that they're now admitting that they actually want to do, and other particles to dim the sun. Or some people think that they're purposely killing people. You know, I wouldn't go that far, but when I see how all these people operate, I don't know if they even know what they're doing anymore. But also with the chemtrail thing, I did a whole video on it, didn't get that popular, but there's literal evidence that humans can change the climate. Like, it's really not a conspiracy theory. The conspiracy is, what are they spraying? Why are they spraying it? Are they spraying it? Like, that's more of this theory. It's not, can they? Like, it's definitely possible. There's laws on books from, I believe, the 60s, 70s, and 80s, but one of those years for sure, where they're admitting in law, they're putting out laws about manipulating climate. The reason they're doing it is because it's possible to do. I don't put out a law that says, like, no magicians can turn people's beds into airplanes that fly out of their room. That's illegal. Like, you don't make the law if no one can do it. Like, no, we're gonna make a law that no magicians can turn buildings into pelicans, and because it'll probably increase the amount of feces in our. Because if we got too many giant pelicans flying around, why is that law there? No, well, it's not. We can't do it. No, we can't do it. We just made a law for it. It's not possible. It's just we have the law. They don't do that. They only make laws for things that are like humanly possible. So the fact that they've had laws about climate change for a long time and weather manipulation via airplanes and such just shows that it's obviously happening and it can happen. Also, China has recently admitted, and I'm not convinced that the United States hasn't done it, at big events and for certain reasons, they literally change the climate. They stop rain from happening so they don't lose advertising money. I believe personally, this is truly a theory, but I think they did it at the Super Bowl the one year in the United States. They said it was going to rain, like 99% chance, and then all of a sudden it was like a clear day with like 75 degrees. I think they probably manipulated the weather, which is fine. Like I said, just don't lie about it. It's definitely possible. Bill Gates, it's in popular science magazines, including the magazine Popular Science. Bill Gates has the technology. He filed a patent or at least a patent, I don't know if he has the technology, I'm sure, to manipulate hurricanes. Bill Gates has a patent on that. So he wants to, according to him, lower the impact of hurricanes. And he has a patent to do so. This is not a theory. This is like in mainstream publications. So the point I'm trying to get across is weather modification is 100% real. It's very, very real. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not a lie. And if people don't realize that, they're going to do it, and then they're going to make it look crazy. So I always ask my climate change friends and environmentalist friends, what do you think about weather modification? They never talk about weather modification, but imagine if you could change the weather and blame it on something else. Imagine if you could change the weather and blame it on climate change. Oh, the fire started because of climate change. Well, that's a great way to burn a lot of things and never take responsibility for it. That's a great way to manipulate things and blame other things. It's also, there's levels to it. But anyway, I just want to talk about weather modification real quick because I had a little pocket. It's very real. To what extent can it be done? On a small extent, big extent? I don't know. On that sense, I want to talk about climate change. Is climate change real? Here's my thoughts. I used to be a super climate change, like a global warming advocate, because I watched the Bill Gates documentary, the Leonardo DiCaprio documentary, and they make very great arguments. Here's what I know is true. I'll start with the true. I think we are mismanaging Earth greatly. I think it's gotten better. It could be worse for sure, but we're mismanaging Earth. For all, like in the United States, for example, we are the greatest nation in the world. We're the richest nation in the world. We have a homelessness problem in a lot of cities. We have a mental health problem. We have an education problem. We have a food problem. The quality of food that we have in the United States is like disgusting to people from Syria. Like I'll have a friend from Syria and he'll be like, dude, what are you eating? This is disgusting. It's not chicken. Like people from South America, like they don't eat the crap that we eat. So if we're the best nation in the world, we're clearly lying about a lot of things, and we're clearly not doing a lot of things at high capacity because people care more about money, unfortunately, than they do about people. And that's a big problem, is like the morality and spirituality from our country. And also I would it's like, I'm kind of on the Tucker side. I did the Tucker-Ben debate. I'm not saying I agree with that theory, but like I think free market capitalism personally, I'm not saying I agree with Tucker's analysis on technology, but I think free market capitalism is not like a flawless thing. I think there's certain times where we need to, really look at what we're doing. Because like if free market capitalism means feeding your people like dog urine, and that's all they have to eat, it's not a good idea. Anyway, the oceans are getting trashed. We should clean up the oceans. We should stop polluting. I'm not a big fan of plastic. Like, yes, I guess I get it's convenient. I'm not hating. I'm not saying to ban all straws and everything. Although I don't think that was the worst thing in the world. But like, we need to figure something out when it comes to pollution and stuff. Like, I'm sure it's having some effect. Why would it not? Like, if I do something for a year, every cause has an effect. So I don't think that. I think that's very reasonable to think all the things that we're doing wrong on a spiritual level, on a physical level, on an energy level, on all these levels, it's going to have some sort of effect on the earth. Now, when it comes to the earth, here's where I don't see eye to eye with climate change people. The earth is ridiculously powerful. No matter what we're doing, I think we should do our best, obviously, but the earth is ridiculously powerful. You have super volcanoes, like literally that could cover the entire world in fire. You have volcanoes under ice glaciers. They found active volcanoes under ice glaciers. So yes, the ice glacier is melting. It has a volcano under it. Has nothing to do with you. If your house has a volcano under it, it's going to melt, and you didn't burn down the house. You have a volcano under it. I mean, these are things that climate change people, it's become a cult, kind of like liberalism. It's like, yeah, what they're saying is good, but the left needs to really realize, like, yes, environmentalism's good, women, children, like all these things, they're good, but if you're brainwashed, you're actually doing the opposite of helping. So if you're an environmentalist who just says climate change, you're actually not helping change the climate. You're doing the opposite. You're actually like stopping real science and intelligence from getting through. So another thing that I always find odd that no one cares about, the Earth is like 72% water, roughly, give or take a few percentages, a majority of water. 95% of the ocean, or they say the surface of the, I don't know how they word it, but I believe it's about 95% of the ocean is unexplored. We can't go down there. We can't get stuff down there. The pressure's too high. It destroys a human body or anything that we could send down there. So if we haven't explored half of the Earth, we don't we don't know how to manipulate volcanoes and things like that. A couple volcanoes, like on Hawaii, when the volcano erupts, not only does it destroy land, but it sends out more pollutants towards climate change than millions of cars. Or I don't know what the rate is, but volcanoes emit a lot of those toxins that they say are destroying the atmosphere and making it change. Also, the Earth is like a powerful living thing that you can't actually control. Like I know people, and you see this, where I'm not I'm not going to tell you to pick up a Bible or a Quran or something and be super religious, do what you want to do. But you notice that these super climate change people, a lot of them don't believe in God. And they think people who believe in God are very dumb. Like, oh, they believe in God, I believe in science. But it's this weird ability that you think you are God. I think humans have the ability to manifest and create, and I think you should be confident and know that you can change the world. But you should also be humble to know that you're not God. On my best day, no matter how confident I am, I know that I can't control the Earth because I'm not God, and I know that the Earth is more powerful than me. The ocean could kill me in a second. I get that, but there's this weird overlap with people who don't believe in God, who literally think that they are gods and think that they can control the Earth's climate no matter what. And if you say otherwise, it's the same thing. You're a Nazi if you like Trump. It's no, you want low taxes or a small business. If I don't believe in climate change, I'm not a denier. I'm a debater. To be honest, if you really want to know the truth, the more I look into things, I don't believe in the mainstream narrative of climate change. I think it was a total hoax created by many people to tax the entire world. They wanted to put a carbon tax. You think stealing your money is going to make the climate go down? You're a moron. This is why I lean more libertarian now. People are so dumb. They constantly get manipulated by politicians who are more cunning than they are because they're stupid enough to just believe a narrative that includes women, children, or environment. So I think it's a hoax. I think the Paris Climate Accord was a total manipulation to get billions of dollars for certain companies to push an agenda that included their pockets getting bigger. I don't know that even the biggest scientists on the planet, if you actually did the math and science behind what they were actually going to do, it wasn't actually going to change anything. And I think we should try to change stuff, but I don't believe the narrative, especially with we're going to tax you. Oh yeah, the gas is bad. We're going to tax you. Oh yeah, it's funny how everything, it's so bad, so you're going to steal my money. At least with the straws thing, they just replaced the straws. That's fine. You want to take out plastic straws, put in cardboard straws that don't work that well? That's fine. I'm not going to cry about it. But if you say, we're going to tax you on the plastic, that's what they do, 10% every time I use a plastic bag. Now you're just stealing my money. I get it. You want my money. So yeah, I have a hard time believing that humans are 100% the reason for the Earth's climate changing. That's why Trump keeps tweeting, he keeps saying, it's the coldest November ever. It's the coldest November ever. It's the coldest Thanksgiving. It's because, first of all, the fires were started by somebody. They were spread because of forest mismanagement and, maybe don't start forest fires. But anyway, I just don't know. The climate, a volcano could explode and the whole U.S. could go under fire. A hurricane could come. I'm not buying the narrative that it's because of all this stuff. And maybe it's because of human population. Like, yeah, we're ridiculously populated. Maybe there's nothing we could do to stop it. Like, I'm not saying it's not real or we don't have to try to do something. But what I am saying is I don't like the way the conversation's framed. It's framed global warming, and then they changed it because they realized it wasn't real. And now Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson say, someone said kicked out twice now. I'm sorry they're kicking you out. I don't know what's going on. Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye say, if you don't believe in climate change, you're a denier and you're an idiot and it goes against all science and you're terrible. But here's what they're not telling you. Science constantly goes against science. Science always goes against science. When I was growing up, they said there were no planets like Earth. We're the Goldilocks planet. Not too hot, not too cold. It's just right. And there's nothing like this anywhere else in the world. Which a lot of religious people like too. Not just left-wingers. Right-wingers are like, yeah, God created Earth. It's the only one like it. And then scientists realized 10 years later that there's billions of planets like Earth that they've never seen before. You had scientists say, and I knew this from when I was young because I just knew they were lying. They said, there's no way that there's life on other planets because there's no water. But I'm thinking to myself, are you that foolish as a scientist? Would you go to Harvard for 8 years to be a moron? You think that all life in the universe, if it exists, that it would have to drink water like humans and plants on the earth? Like, are you stupid? Are scientists that have 8-year degrees really that dumb that they're looking for life just like Earth? I mean, if other planets exist, it doesn't need water. You think everything? And then they actually found something on Earth that was like thriving off of arsenic. It was like a very small, very small thing that you need a microscope to think. But they found something on Earth that didn't need water and air and all the things that most beings need on Earth. So it's like science disproves science. And scientists, especially climate scientists, I find very egotistical. Like, do you want to admit that there's a volcano under that ice glacier? Well, yeah, we spent 50 years researching it, and then we found out there's a volcano under it. That could happen in science, and a lot of scientists are like narcissistic and egotistical, where they think that they're gods of the little equations they've been putting in for 15 years and getting paid to do it. Like, great, yeah, you're smart, you know equations and physics, like, it's very great. I'm not knocking it, but if you don't understand Earth is what you're studying. You don't understand more than half of the planet you're studying, so you don't really know. You have hypotheses, like, yes, is climate change a good starting point? Yeah, for sure. I definitely think it's a good conversation to have, but is it a proven fact? And anybody who disagrees with Bill Nye is a terrible person and they're trying to destroy the planet? No, this is a leftist tactic they use for everything. If you don't agree with their border policy, you don't like little women and children, even though the problem isn't women and children, and there is a big problem of children being kidnapped and raped at the border because of people like liberals who entice them to come. So they lied about that. They think that they own black and Hispanic people in the United States, and if you disagree with their agenda, they're literally sick, twisted people. And I don't say that in a negative way. I pray for them to gain health and understanding of themselves so they could stop lying to everybody else, because if you lie to yourself, you can't tell the truth to everyone else. It's not that they don't have points. There's points to be had with immigration. There's points to be had with climate change. I'm not saying that I'm not willing to have a debate. I'm not even saying that it's not true. You haven't heard me say, I personally, here's how I feel, here's my evidence, let's have a discussion. What is not okay and what I won't stand for is that leftists of all kinds, they think that they're 100% right, you're 100% wrong, and if you try to have a conversation about that, they try to block you out of existence because they think you're too dangerous to even exist. That's the sign of a fool. That's the sign of an egotistical person who's not really intelligent. That's not a sign of intelligence. That's a sign of academic indoctrination. That means you went to school for 4 years and you let your ego build up thinking that you're really, really smart because you got this degree and you learned these equations, and now you think that you're a god who can't be disproved. Even the smartest scientists, math is real, physics is real. A lot of these things are real. Equations are real. The fact that we can get an airplane off the ground because we use equations of how the wind blows and how the earth works. This is all very, very real. Science is real. It's amazing. I would never knock it for a second. But what is not real is thinking that you understand the entire earth when you haven't explored half of it, and thinking that you know the 100% exact reason of why the climate is shifting when you don't have the data. They don't have the data from thousands of years ago. They don't have all of this. They started caring about it not that long ago, which is okay. I'm really glad that we're studying it, but A volcano could erupt and ruin your whole, literally your whole laboratory will be in flames. The entire country that you thought you knew would be destroyed because you don't control the volcanoes. You don't, Hawaii, before humans were overpopulating and ruining everything, Hawaii was exploding. The volcanoes were exploding. Like, that's what they do. Volcanoes explode and then sometimes they don't explode. You know, the ocean shifts. Climates shift. Yeah, the climate is changing, and I would be more worried if it wasn't. If certain areas are hot and certain areas are cold, and now they're getting hotter and these areas are getting colder, like, that's normal. That ice cap's melting. It probably is, because you know what? It's going to melt, and it's going to turn into water, and then that water is going to flow somewhere else, because that's what the Earth does. It changes all the time. It spins, according to scientists, and it changes, and it flows, and it melts, and it heats up, and it's winter, and it's summer, and that's the way the world works. And I think we're overpopulating. I think we're mismanaging. I do think we're polluting. We're destroying the ocean. But look at Los Angeles. They're the biggest environmentalists, but they have the worst air. How are you going to be the biggest environmentalist when you have the worst air in your country? What you're really doing is you're killing the people who live here, including myself, quicker than they would normally with clean air. So you're actually affecting people's lives. You're ruining people's lives. But you're preaching that you're saving everyone's life. And that's attainable. That's achievable. That's science that you could study here, and it's not really disprovable. Although you could say maybe the body regenerates, maybe we learn something else, we learn a fruit or a cure that could change that, but like, that's science that makes more sense to me. And all of that science is going against the liberal ideology, because nothing that they're doing in their country, yeah, we love women and children and homeless so much, but why do you have the most poverty then? If you want to fight Trump's education system so much, why is yours 50th in the United States? It's because they don't actually know what they're talking about. They just follow old algorithms and old formulas that really don't work, and especially with these talking points. I'm not saying science doesn't work, but their whole philosophy, like, it's hard to do. It's hard, and it's hard to do for people to like look and be like, man, almost everything that I've thought is a lie. I did it. It wasn't that hard for me because I don't have a big ego. Maybe that's probably why it was very simple for me. Someone comes to me, the sign of an intelligent person. I'm not saying I'm that smart, but if you want to be smart, you don't have to read 10 million books and you don't have to be Einstein. You have to know you don't know anything. That's what Socrates said. I know nothing. That's how you become smart. You don't have to be a genius. You could be, you could not be the brightest bulb in the pack, but if you know that there's more to learn, you're going to get smarter than people who think they're smart, because that's the sign of being not smart, is thinking you know everything. And I think it's hard for a lot of people to realize that they don't. They were lied to. To me, I knew people were lying to me my whole life. I just didn't know where it was coming from. And when I figured out where it was coming from, and I figured out the bulk of it, and I figured out that the Leonardo DiCaprio, documentary I watched was cool and it was informative, but it's not the be-all end-all. And, these results that I was learning about cultures and this and all this SJW, social justice warrior stuff, I was super involved in and like passionate about from the time I was like 17 to like 23. It was okay for me to like fall away from that. It's not changing or selling out. It's just because like I'm not like a complete like egotistical narcissist. I'm like, oh, I was wrong. Like, ooh, it's not a big deal. Like, okay, now I know more things, and I've changed my my thoughts based on what I've learned. Just like when someone comes to me, even if they're liberal or something, and they have a good point, I'm like, you're what's effective, not somebody telling me to shut up because I don't know anything. You telling me like, this is how I feel, here's the stats, and like, I agree, I feel if you disagree. Like, that's what changes someone's mind. I think people are afraid to do that with climate change. I think they're afraid to do that with science things that they know. I think they're afraid to, like, science changes all the time. In the Amazon rainforest, there's like dozens, if not hundreds, of new species that are just like emerging. Like, it's like a little portal where just like things like, oh, it's like a bird with 15 heads, and like, changes science forever because we didn't think that thing could exist. Like, that's what science is. It's a constantly evolving. You learn, you make hypotheses, and climate change is not a definitive fact. The only reason that people think it's a definitive fact is because it's a political agenda. If there was no political gain to be had from climate change, if it was just a humanitarian gain, you'd never hear about it. Why do you not hear about the food industry? Because there's no political gain to be had by how bad the food is. Is it science? Yeah, it's science. Eat the food that they sell you all the time. It's going to affect your body negatively. That's science. That is a scientific fact. But there's other elements that go into it. They don't talk about it because there's no political gain to be had. With climate change, if it was just killing people in other countries and it was going to ruin Florida and New York, I don't think that they would really care. I don't think they really care about people, to be honest. I wish they did. I think some people do. Some politicians do. But a lot of them and a lot of the overarching people who design these things, I don't know that they really care. And I break it down into two categories. I say there's the people at the high levels who are like propagating this stuff, but most people, in my personal perspective, they're not bad people. There's a lot of useful idiots, and they've lied and they've deceived and they've propagated for so long. There's a lot of useful idiots in high power positions now. So there's useful idiots brainwashing other people. They're not necessarily terrible people that are evil. They just believe what they're saying, and then they keep saying it, and they refuse to have a conversation about it. Like with me, I have a whole debate podcast that I made to actually have other people on who disagree with me, because I want my audience to be exposed to the counter argument. These people not only do they not want to do that, but they actually want to block the counter argument out of existence. That's what politicians and media sources are doing with climate change. It's not simply they're saying, I'm right, you're wrong, here's why. The founder of the Weather Channel, maybe I'll share it later, came on to CNN. He said, I founded the Weather Channel. I'm a scientist. I founded this whole network. Climate change is not real. Climate change is not how you say it. He's like, these scientists are being politically paid. I know Elon Musk says that's not true. Let him debate with the founder of the Weather Channel. But it's like, he said, I'm not a denier because I want to have a conversation about it. I founded the Weather Channel. Like, I'm not a denier of science or weather. I'm just trying to have a conversation with it. That's the difference. It's like, it's okay to believe that. It's okay to use the science. It's okay to have all the evidence in your favor. But it's not okay to say it's a proven fact that you can't disagree with, because that's not what science is. If you think it is, stick your head in an active volcano and see what happens. You're not God. You don't control the planet. You don't control the weather as much as you think you do on a huge scale. But there is also ways to control it. I think people have the technology to do so. I think we have the technology to do so on many levels. So I do think that what we're doing has an effect, but I want to open up the discussion about like climate change, what's true about it, and what really affects. Because also I want to say there's actually inventions. There's like other Ivy League people that aren't like this. They've created technology that'll actually suck CO2 out of the air. So it's like be pragmatic. Okay, if that is truly true and that's the best information we have, plant a lot of trees. Like literally that's what trees do. It's not a joke. It's like India did it. They planted 20-30 million trees. They still have horrible air, but it's like figure out the solution to the problem. Don't just scream about it all the time and try to steal my money via taxpayer dollars. So overall, don't dim the sun. Please don't spray stuff in the air without telling people, but I already think they're doing that, and they're kind of proving they're doing that. Maybe it's like a slow roll to like, oh, we could do this. We've been doing it. Who knows? We'll find out later. But overall, have a good day. I hope you liked this discussion. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you guys for staying. This was a fun one. I had a good time. Thank you to everyone supporting on Patreon or Donor Box. You're 100% of the reason that I'm here. Clearly, not only does social media and big agents and stuff, not only do they not want to work with me and pay me, even though my network is probably a multi-million-dollar network. I know it is. Not to brag or anything. I just did I've worked in social media marketing literally my whole life, so I know how much ads are worth and stuff's worth. It's a multi-million-dollar network that nobody wants to not only let me have part of, although Facebook and YouTube have been great, I have to say. They haven't been that bad to me. Thank you, Facebook and YouTube. But like a lot of these, like if I was a gamer, I'd be able to make it. But when you do politics, not only do they not want to get you money, but they try to like take your money, or they try to shut you down like Laura Loomer or Alex Jones. I'm not comparing myself to them per se, but it's like a slow roll, just like with free speech. People used to know this. The ACLU used to protect everyone's speech. Even though they didn't agree with it, no matter how bad it was, they knew that free speech meant protecting everyone's speech. They don't know that anymore. It's the same with like, Alex Jones or Laura Loomer. Like, yeah, okay, like Alex is kind of wild sometimes, and he says some things. And like Laura Loomer, but like what they deleted her for, they could delete anybody for, because they didn't even pick the craziest thing she did. She's done 50 crazier things than that, and they picked like one that was like not even that bad, and like that's why we're banning you. It's a slope downhill, so we're working against the current, but we have the current of good energy, we have the current of truth, we have the current of good vibes and people who are productive in society. So it's a good time to be alive. Thank you guys for supporting and joining. Sign up to my free email list if you don't do anything. Have a good week. And 478 people staying to the end. You guys are the realest MVPs. I appreciate you greatly.